My name is Emily Keller. I'm 32 years old, and I live alone on the 28th floor of a glass condo in Belltown, Seattle. From my living room window, I can see Elliott Bay glittering under the rain, white ferries cutting slowly across the gray water, and far off, the Olympics rising and falling in the mist. This apartment is the result of 8 years of non-stop work. Minimalist furnishings, hardwood floors, an open kitchen with a granite island, and a bookshelf full of risk reports I bring home on weekends. I like the quiet here. No husband, no kids, no pets, just me and the rainy city. My job is senior risk analyst for a major insurance company headquartered in downtown Seattle. Put simply, I'm paid well to imagine the worst possible things that could happen to other people's money. Floods in Florida? I calculate probabilities and losses. Wildfires spreading through California? I build forecasting models. High net worth clients wanting million-dollar property coverage? I dig into credit histories, litigation records, even their social media posts for red flags. I'm good at it. So good that my boss calls me the person who sees the shadow before it appears. That Tuesday afternoon was a typical Seattle rainy day. Steady drizzle, not heavy, but enough to soak everything. I just wrapped up a 3-hour Zoom call with the New York team, my head still buzzing with numbers on mortgage default rates in Texas. I shrugged off my blazer, slipped into wool slippers, and started my favorite ritual: pour-over coffee. Fresh ground Ethiopian Yargashef beans, water at exactly 96 degrees Celsius, pristine white Hario filter paper. The aroma spread, warm and comforting, a sharp contrast to the damp chill seeping through the glass. My phone buzzed on the kitchen island. I glanced over. Mom's number. I smiled, probably checking if I was coming to Issaquah for dinner this weekend. She always did that every few weeks, her voice sweet as she reminded me, "Don't work too hard, honey." I let it go to voicemail, focusing on the coffee dripping slowly into the glass carafe. I like listening to messages later, when I'm settled on the sofa with a steaming mug in hand. When the carafe was full, I picked up the phone, put it on speaker, and hit play. Mom's voice came through, not the warm tone I knew. Flat, cold, like she was reading a subscription cancellation notice. "Emily, we're done. You're no longer part of this family. Never return. We're moving on without you." 15 seconds. No more. No explanation. No tremor. Just the long beep at the end. I stood frozen in the kitchen. The mug in my hand suddenly felt heavy. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears, a frantic drum in the quiet apartment. I looked out the window. Rain still falling, streaks sliding down the glass, blurring the lights from the ferry pulling away from the dock. Everything around me was the same, but the world inside me had just collapsed. I waited for the emotions to hit. Tears, anger, pain, but nothing came. Only a cold emptiness. And then, very quickly, my professional instinct kicked in like a switch. I've been trained to face the biggest risks without panicking. I set the mug down, took a deep breath, and opened messages. I typed one line to Mom. Understood. No exclamation point, no question, no pleading. I didn't call back, I didn't cry. I just stood there, watching the phone screen fade to black, thinking about everything I'd built over nearly a decade. Keller Family Investments, LLC, the family limited liability company I founded at 25, using my first signing bonus and startup salary to buy the first rental house in Renton. 4 more houses after that. And the new duplex project in Capitol Hill set to close next week. The one where I was the primary borrower, the guarantor, the person who hunted it down, negotiated, crunched every number. If they wanted me out of the family, fine. But I'd leave and take everything I'd built with me. I opened my laptop, logged into the LLC admin account, and started locking every door. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter, the screen still glowing with the scent, understood. No exclamation mark, no emoji, just one cold professional word, the way I respond to emails declining coverage for a high-risk client. I didn't wait for her to read it, didn't wait for the blue ticks. I just turned the screen off and went back to the open laptop on the island. Rain still fell steadily outside, the patter on the penthouse roof mixing with the hum of the range hood. I took a deep breath. The Ethiopian coffee aroma lingered, but now it tasted bitter. I opened the browser, logged into the admin account for Keller Family Investments LLC, the family LLC I'd built myself at 25. Back then, fresh out of college, I took my first signing bonus from the insurance company. Instead of buying a car or traveling Europe like my friends, I used it all as a down payment on the first house in Renton, a rundown 3-bedroom bungalow with a leaking roof that needed 40 grand in repairs. My parents only offered vague advice. Are you sure? Real estate is risky. I did it anyway. I learned cash flow calculations, rental yield, depreciation. I filed taxes myself, managed contractors myself. That first house went cash flow positive in year 1, then the second, third, fourth. Now the LLC owns 4 stable rental properties in Seattle suburbs and the newest duplex in Capitol Hill, the hottest neighborhood in the city, where prices rise 15% a year. I'm the only one with full admin rights. My parents only have view access and quarterly profit distributions, something I designed so they'd have passive income in retirement. I never thought I'd have to use those rights against them. My fingers moved across the trackpad. I went to user permissions. Mom's name, Laura Keller, appeared with viewer and limited transfer. I clicked edit, removed all transfer rights, removed e-signature rights, removed detailed bank account view. Done. Same for Dad, Greg Keller. 2 mouse clicks, and every easy path they'd had through me was officially locked. Next was the duplex loan. I opened email, found the thread with the real estate agent, Sarah Nguyen, a sharp Vietnamese-American woman I'd worked with on 3 prior deals. I drafted a new message. Subject: immediate removal of Emily Keller from Capitol Hill duplex transaction. Sarah, per our previous discussions, please consider this email as formal written notice that I am withdrawing as borrower, cosigner, and qualifying party on the Capitol Hill duplex purchase, address 1724 E. Thomas Street. Effective immediately, remove my name, income, credit report, and any associated documentation from the file. Do not represent me as participating in any capacity moving forward. Please send written confirmation of this change to all parties involved, including lenders and title company. Thank you, Emily Keller. I attached a pre-prepared scanned withdrawal letter with my signature. Always prepare for the worst-case scenario, as my job taught me. Sent. Less than 5 minutes later, Sarah replied, "Received and understood. I'll handle this today. Call if you need anything." I knew she would. She always moves fast for clients who pay on time and don't create drama. Next was the retirement accounts. I logged into Vanguard, where I'd set up 529 plans for my parents at 28, plus 2 supplemental IRAs. I changed beneficiaries from joint to restricted, locked all withdrawals or structural changes without my physical signature at a branch. I enabled freeze on unusual activity. Any change would alert my personal email directly. Everything was done in under 40 minutes. I closed the laptop, looked out the window. The rain had grown heavier, thick streaks sliding down the glass like it wanted to erase the view of the bay. The coffee in the carafe had gone cold. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel the pain I probably should have. Just a cold, sharp clarity, like when I decline an insurance contract because the loss probability exceeds acceptable thresholds. If they wanted me out of the family, fine. I'd leave. But I'd take everything I'd built with me. The houses don't pay their own mortgages. The cash flow doesn't magically appear in retirement accounts. The Capitol Hill duplex doesn't close without a primary borrower with an 810 credit score and stable 6-figure income. They thought cutting me out was the end. They didn't realize I was the foundation everything stood on. I stood, poured the cold coffee into a mug, reheated it in the microwave. The beep echoed in the quiet space. I took the hot mug, sat on the gray leather sofa, and looked at the still, dark phone screen. I knew tomorrow it would explode, but tonight I'd locked every door, and I held the keys. The next morning, I woke to non-stop buzzing from the hardwood floor. The phone had fallen off the nightstand sometime in the night, now dancing frantically on the dark oak like it was trying to escape. I reached down, grabbed it, eyes still stinging from lack of sleep. The screen glowed bright in the dark room. 58 missed calls. I scrolled the list. Mom, 28 calls. Dad, 19 calls. Unknown numbers, 10 calls. And one voicemail from Mr. Harrison, the family lawyer I'd referred to my parents 5 years ago when we formed the LLC. I sat up, pulled the covers down, bare feet hitting the cold floor. Outside the window, Seattle was still raining. Not a downpour, but that misty gray kind that makes the whole city feel submerged in damp fog. I put it on speaker and played Mr. Harrison's voicemail. "This is Richard Harrison calling for Emily Keller. Emily, we have a situation regarding the duplex closing next week. Your withdrawal has triggered some complications with the lender, and your parents have asked me to reach out urgently. Please call me back as soon as possible. This is quite serious." His voice was tense, the tense voice of a lawyer realizing his clients omitted a key detail. I could picture him in his walnut-paneled downtown office, tie loosened, phone in hand, eyes glued to a screen full of flagged documents. I ended the voicemail, opened messages. Mom had texted nonstop, as if typing in a panic. "Emily, this is just a misunderstanding. Please call me. We were upset last night. We didn't mean it like that. Come home so we can talk. Honey, where are you? Are you safe? Your dad is worried sick." Dads were shorter but heavier. Whatever happened, we can talk this out. Kiddo, please pick up. I'm outside your building. It's pouring. Call me. I paused on the last one. My chest tightened. I opened the building security app, the Nest system I'd installed myself last year for theft risk mitigation. I pulled the clip from 5:47 a.m. Black and white footage. Dad, Greg Keller, standing in the rain in front of the building's glass doors. He wore his old navy rain jacket, holding a black umbrella, but water still streamed down the umbrella's edge. He stood there about 3 minutes, hand rising as if to buzz Unit 28, then lowering. He looked up, straight toward my window, like he hoped I'd appear. Finally, he shook his head slightly, turned and walked away, umbrella tilted to hide his face. I closed the clip. The feeling in my chest was hard to name. Not quite pain, not quite anger, just a heavy emptiness. I kept scrolling calls and messages. Not one from Sophie. Not a single call, not a single text, not even a crying laughing emoji like usual. Sophie Keller, my 27-year-old little sister, the one who usually spammed the family group chat with dog memes, TikTok dances, and selfies captioned "Living my best life." The one who replied to my coffee story with "Starbs again, sis?" within seconds. Today, total silence. I set the phone down, went to the kitchen for fresh coffee. This time, no elaborate pour-over ritual, just Nespresso, quick and strong, Sumatra capsule for the bold hit. I needed caffeine fast. While the machine ran, I reopened the call log. 3 from numbers I recognized as Mr. Harrison's office. 1 from Sarah Nguyen, the real estate agent. She must have sounded the alarm when she saw my withdrawal from the duplex deal. I didn't call anyone back. I just sat on the sofa, hot mug in hand, staring out at the misty Elliott Bay. The ferry still ran on schedule, rain or not. Life outside continued. But in the small world of the Keller family, everything had changed in one 15-second voicemail. I knew they were panicking because of what I did last night. They thought cutting me out was the end. They didn't expect me to lock every door and keep the keys. I took a sip of coffee. Bitter, but waking. I didn't reply to any messages. I just switched to Do Not Disturb, set the phone face down on the table. They wanted me gone? Fine. But they hadn't realized that when I left, I'd take the entire foundation they were standing on with me. And this morning, that foundation started to shake. I left the condo at 7:30, black umbrella overhead, long camel trench coat soaking up the drizzle. Seattle was the same as always, sky hanging low like a wet blanket. I walked down to the underground garage, started my forest green Subaru Outback, and pulled out. Red lights all the way down Denny Way, wipers swishing steadily. Radio traffic report, backups on I-5 southbound, minor accident at Mercer. I turned it off, drove in silence. The phone buzzed in its dash mount. Message from Megan, dad's side cousin, lives in Tacoma. Heard you're overwhelmed and pulled out of the duplex. You okay? Aunt Laura sounded really worried when she called Mom last night. I stopped at the Pine Street light, read it twice. Overwhelmed.
That word sounded familiar. I'd never told anyone I was overwhelmed. I'd never said I withdrew from the duplex for personal reasons. I only sent professional emails to Sarah and locked access. Yet the rumor had spread, and the wording was carefully chosen. Not angry, not betrayed, but overwhelmed, making me sound like someone who needed sympathy, protection from myself. I typed back briefly, "I'm fine, thanks for checking," then kept driving. At the office on the 23rd floor of a glass tower on 4th Avenue, I'd barely stepped into the hallway when Jenna, my team colleague, the only one I regularly lunch with, called out. "Em? Oh my God, are you okay?" She lowered her voice, pulled me aside near the coffee machine.
Your mom called my mom last night. Apparently they ran into each other at Costco and said you're taking a mental health break from the family real estate stuff. Everyone's worried. Mental health break? Second time in 30 minutes. I forced a tight smile. I'm good, really. Just some family restructuring. Jenna looked skeptical, but didn't push. She just gave my shoulder a light squeeze and went back to her desk. I sat at my usual spot by the window, overlooking the sound. Opened my laptop, but couldn't work. My mind started connecting dots. Sophie lost her job 3 months ago. The small Fremont ad agency downsized, and she was among the first laid off. She moved back to my parents in Issaquah, sprawled on the sofa, posting Instagram stories complaining, "Corporate world is toxic and need to heal." Then suddenly, at Sunday dinners, Sophie started using terms she never cared about before. Streamline the LLC, unlock equity, diversify the portfolio. She asked me about cap rates, refinancing, adding another managing member to lighten the load. At the time, I thought my little sister was finally growing up, interested in family finances. Good thing. Now, everything looked like the risk maps I draw for clients. Sophie needed money. High credit card debt from her influencer wannabe lifestyle. Designer clothes, Coachella trips, weekend brunches in Capitol Hill. My parents weren't as flush as before. Dad retired early from Boeing. Mom works part-time at the library. All stable passive income came from Keller Family Investments, LLC, the thing I built and managed. If she could push me out by convincing my parents I was overwhelmed, stressed, need a break, Sophie could slide into that spot humanely. She'd be the one saving my parents from their over-controlling older daughter. She'd get added to the LLC, signing authority, access to cash flow. And she'd been completely silent since last night. Not one message, not one call. Not because she was angry, because she was waiting to see if the plan worked. I sat there, laptop screen blurring from my breath. The first real anger rose. Not hot, not screaming. Cold, sharp, like the blade I used to cut risk out of insurance contracts. I opened messages, looked again at the understood I'd sent Mom. No regret, only more certainty. They'd chosen to start a war, and they picked the wrong opponent. I took a sip of cold coffee from my Vermis, looked out the window. Rain still falling, but this time I didn't see gray. I saw every drop clearly, every clue, every move, every possible scenario, and I was ready for them all. Saturday, I decided to do something normal to pretend everything was fine. I put on my gray cashmere sweater, trench coat, grabbed a large umbrella, and drove down to Pike Place Market. Rain still falling, thicker now. The kind Seattleites call heavy mist, enough to soak hair in minutes outside. I parked in the underground garage, walked up Post Alley, and stepped into my favorite coffee spot, Storyville Coffee, hidden behind a red door on the 2nd floor, overlooking the bay through fogged glass. The place was packed as usual on weekends. Smell of cinnamon rolls, bold espresso, and the hiss of steam wands filled the warm wood interior. I ordered a hot oat milk latte, found a small table by the window, and sat with the book I'd brought as a prop. Really? I couldn't read a word. My head was still spinning with yesterday's pieces. overwhelmed, mental health break, and Sophie's deadly silence. I'd just taken my first sip when I heard a familiar voice. Emily Keller, long time no see. I looked up. Mr. Tom Reynolds, not the financial advisor Whitaker, but Tom Reynolds, Dad's old friend from the Boeing aircraft repair shop in Renton. Tall, white hair cropped short, wearing his old Carhartt jacket even indoors. He grinned wide, patted my shoulder like he did when I was little, and tagged along to the garage. Uncle Tom! I stood and hugged him, still smelled of machine oil and Irish Spring soap. He sat across from me, ordered a black Americano. We chatted about the weather, how awful the Seahawks were this season. Then he lowered his voice, face turning concerned. You okay, kid? I heard you stepped back from the duplex because of heavy stress. Your mom and Sophie mentioned it in the family group chat. They said you're struggling, work pressure too much, need some rest. Blood rushed to my ears. Stress again, rest again, and this time shared in the family group chat, the one I'd muted since Tuesday night. I'm fine, Uncle Tom, I forced a smile. Just a change of plans. He nodded, but his eyes stayed worried. Yeah, just checking. You are the strongest one in the family, but everyone has limits. Call me if you need to talk. He patted my hand, paid, and left me sitting with my cooling latte. I didn't wait. Outside the cafe, I stood under the post alley awning, avoiding the rain, opened my phone, and called the person I needed confirmation from most, Mr. Alan Whitaker, the financial advisor who helped me form Keller Family Investments LLC from day one. He picked up on the second ring. Emily Keller, you surprised me. Still keeping everything stable? I cut to the chase. Uncle Alan, has anyone asked about changing the LLC structure lately? Adding a new managing member, for example? Short silence on the line. I heard him sit up straighter, the leather chair creaking faintly. I've seen a few draft documents floating around, he said slowly. Your mom called me about 2 weeks ago, asking some hypothetical questions about adding another family member as managing member to share the burden. I saw Sophie's name mentioned and your signature line blank. I told her nothing could change without your actual signature and best to meet in person to discuss. Those documents looked rushed, missing a lot. I gripped the phone until my knuckles went white. Have any been sent out? No, I held them all. I thought it odd, since changes always go through you. And Laura spoke like you'd already agreed, but were needing time to rest. Needing time to rest. That phrase again. I thanked him, hung up, stood in the drizzle a few more minutes. Water soaked through my collar, cold, but I didn't feel it anymore. Everything was crystal clear now. Sophie wasn't just spreading rumors. She'd acted, preparing documents, convincing Mom, using the Emily is severely stressed story as justification to slide into the spot I'd built for 8 years. And my mother, the one who left the never return voicemail, had believed it, or at least gone along. The anger wasn't cold anymore. It burned, sharp, like the blade I used to cut risk out of insurance contracts. I opened my umbrella, stepped into the rain. Pike Place soaked, fish smell from the market, mixing with someone's saxophone under an awning. Tourists still posed for fish-throwing photos, laughing like nothing had happened. But in my world, war had officially begun, and I had the first piece of evidence. I got home from Pike Place Saturday afternoon, trench coat soaked despite the umbrella. The condo was still quiet, only the steady rain tapping the large windows. I kicked off shoes, hung the coat, and sat straight at my work desk in the living room corner, the walnut desk with dual monitors where I usually analyze risk for the company. Today, I'd apply the same skills to my own family. First, I opened email and finalized the formal duplex withdrawal letter I drafted earlier. I CC'd Sarah Newen, Mr. Harrison, family lawyer, and the lender. Short, professional, emotionless. Subject: formal withdrawal of Emily Keller from Capitol Hill duplex purchase, 1724 E. Thomas Street. To all parties. This email serves as formal written confirmation of my complete withdrawal as borrower, cosigner, guarantor, and qualifying party from the above referenced transaction. effective immediately. Remove my name, credit report, income verification, and all associated documentation from the file. Cease any representation that I am participating in this purchase in any capacity. Do not use my financial qualifications for loan approval or closing. Any continued use of my information without explicit, new written consent will be considered unauthorized. I have already notified the lender directly. Please confirm receipt and compliance within 24 hours. Regards, Emily Keller, Senior Risk Analyst. Company name redacted. I attached a scanned withdrawal letter with my handwritten signature and sent. Sarah replied in 10 minutes. Confirmed. File paused. Lender notified. Good. Another door locked tight. Next was Sophie. I opened a new tab addressed to her personal email, sophie.keller.design@gmail.com, the one she uses for freelance portfolios. I drafted in the tone I use for risk escalation reports at work. No emotion, just facts and consequences. Sophie, this email serves as formal notice that any attempt to alter ownership percentages, signature authority, management structure, or financial access related to Keller Family Investments LLC, including but not limited to adding new managing members, modifying operating agreements, or executing documents on my behalf without my explicit, written, and notarized consent is unauthorized. Do not sign my name. Do not imply my approval. Do not represent that I have agreed to any changes, verbally or otherwise. Any such action may constitute fraud, forgery, or unauthorized practice and will be documented accordingly for review by legal counsel and relevant authorities. This is not a negotiation. This is a record. Emily Keller, Managing Member, Keller Family Investments LLC. I read it 3 times, ensuring not one word carried emotion. Sent. No CC to anyone. This was a direct, private warning with a timestamp. Done with initial legal actions, I opened Finder on my MacBook Pro and created a new folder on the desktop, Keller Family Risk File. I dragged in screenshots of the entire message thread from Mom and Dad this morning. Audio file of Mom's never return voicemail. Duplex withdrawal email just sent and Sarah's reply. Warning email to Sophie. Call notes with Mr. Alan Whitaker. I opened voice memos, quickly recorded a summary of what he said about draft documents and hypothetical questions. Screenshots of Megan's message and my office conversation with Jenna. Building security clip of Dad in the rain. I named files by date/time, added red tags for easy search. This was no longer family drama. This was a risk file, like the cases I build at work when detecting internal fraud. I was dragging the last file in when the phone rang. Unknown number, 425 area code, East Side Suburbs, Issaquah. I answered. This is Emily Keller. Hi, Emily. This is Jason Liu from Evergreen Wealth Advisors. I'm the new financial advisor for Greg and Laura Keller. Sophie introduced us a couple months ago. I sat up straight. Jason Liu. I remembered the name. Sophie bragged on an Instagram story. Finally found an advisor who gets millennial wealth. #adulting. I'd never met him. Hi, Jason. What can I do for you? He cleared his throat, sounding awkward. I'm reviewing the Keller family investment files in preparation for some proposed updates. There are draft documents adding Sophie as co-managing member with references to your approval, but your signature line is blank. Also notes about you stepping back temporarily due to being, overwhelmed with work and needing space. Overwhelmed. That word again. I kept my voice calm. Jason, for clarity, I have not approved any changes. I have not signed anything. I have not agreed to step back. Any representation otherwise is inaccurate. Short silence. I heard paper shuffling. I thought as much, he said quietly. From a compliance standpoint, nothing moves without your live signature, but your parents seemed under the impression this was mutually agreed. Treat every request as unauthorized unless you have my direct written confirmation, I said. And if anyone claims I've approved something verbally, ask for proof in writing. You won't get it. We ended the call politely. He promised to pause all drafts and work directly with me on any changes. I hung up, added call notes to the Keller family risk file.
Rain outside had turned heavier, pounding the glass like it wanted to break the quiet. I looked at the folder on screen, now over 20 files, chronologically ordered, each one evidence. I didn't cry, didn't scream, just felt clearer than ever. They'd tried to build a story where I was the villain, too stressed, too controlling, needing rescue. I'd build a different story, one backed by timestamps, emails, recordings, and law. And my story wouldn't bend. Sunday, I tried to rest by not opening the laptop. I walked along Elliott Bay Trail, light drizzle, earbuds in with a personal finance podcast, listening to an expert talk about red flags in family lending, and couldn't help a wry smile.
Back at the condo around 3 p.m., I found a white envelope taped to my front door. Mom's familiar handwriting, round, slightly slanted letters I used to copy as a kid. I took it inside, didn't open immediately, set it on the kitchen counter, brewed Earl Grey tea, then sat on the sofa and carefully tore the edge. Inside was a lined sheet from Mom's old notepad. Dearest Emily, the feeling in my chest tightened again, not anger this time, but a deep sadness, the kind you only feel when realizing the people closest to you can hurt you this badly. I pictured Mom at the Issaquah kitchen table, Dad pacing behind her, Sophie probably upstairs listening to music. I imagined Mom writing this with tears falling, Sophie nodding encouragement. Mom, you need to reach out. I photographed the letter, both sides, saved to Keller Family Risk File as handwritten note Laura, 2026-05. Then the phone buzzed. Message from Megan in Tacoma. Hey Em, not sure if I should send this, but I think you need to know. Attached were 3 Instagram story screenshots from Sophie. First story, black and white background, photo of Sophie by a rainy window, white caption. Sometimes the most toxic person in your life is the one who controls all the money and uses it to punish you when you speak up. Second, white quote on pastel green. Healing means setting boundaries with people who weaponize their help, even if they share your blood. Third, artsy coffee photo. Caption, learning to walk away from generational patterns of control, choosing peace over access. Hashtag boundaries, hashtag healing journey, hashtag family dynamics. Under each story, dozens of hearts and comments. You go, girl, so brave, sending love. I zoomed in on Sophie's photo. Light makeup, messy bun, effortless style, distant gaze, perfect performance of a victim healing. I saved all 3 screenshots to the risk folder, named Sophie IG Stories 2026-05. Note added. No names tagged, no direct mention, but anyone in family or shared friend circles would know toxic person who controls money meant me. I sat there, staring at the laptop screen. The folder now held nearly 30 files, voicemail, legal emails, Whitaker notes, Jason Lew call, security clip, Mom's letter, Sophie stories. Everything was crystal clear now. This wasn't a family drama sparked by anger. This was a planned smear campaign. Sophie needed a spot in the LLC. She needed cash flow. She needed my parents on her side. So she built a narrative, controlling older sister, toxic older sister, sister causing everyone stress, and brave younger sister setting boundaries to protect the family. Mom's voicemail was just the final blow, likely encouraged by Sophie while my parents worried about money. Mom, if Emily won't share the load, maybe it's time to let her go. Today's letter was an attempt to pull me back. Not real remorse, but realization that without me, the duplex collapses, cash flow stops. And the Instagram stories were the perfect finish, turning Sophie into a public victim, making anyone questioning her look like they don't understand healing. I closed the laptop, stood, opened the window despite the rain. Cold, damp air rushed in, carrying salt from Elliott Bay. I didn't cry, didn't call Mom, didn't comment on Sophie's stories. I just added one new file to the folder, a short Word document titled Timeline of Events. I started typing, line by line, chronologically. This was no longer defense. This was preparation for a story where truth would stand against every fabricated version. And when the time came, I'd have every piece of evidence needed to keep that story unbreakable. Monday morning early, I was at my office desk, screen full of Midwest flood risk charts, when the phone buzzed lightly. Message from Mom. Just 10 minutes. No arguing. Please. I stared at the words. The tone was different from earlier messages. No begging, no blame, just short, tired. More like Mom. I took a deep breath, looked out the window. Seattle rain still falling, drops sliding down the high-rise glass. I knew refusing now would only drag things out. I needed to hear it directly from them. I replied, "Call me now." Speakerphone. The ring came instantly. I answered, put on speaker, set the phone down. "Hello, Emily?" Mom's voice first, slightly shaky. "I'm here." "Your dad's here too," Mom said quickly. I heard Dad clear his throat in the background. "Hey, kiddo," Dad said, voice low but warmer than usual. "You wanted 10 minutes, as said directly. Go ahead." Mom sighed. "Emily, we were wrong. That voicemail, it was too much. We shouldn't have said it. Never return, I never truly meant that. We were just angry and caught up." I stayed silent, waiting. Dad continued, "Honey, your mom and I let emotions take over. I'm sorry for not calling you first to ask what was going on. I believed what was easiest to believe." "What was easiest to believe?" I asked, voice even. Mom hesitated. "Sophie told us that you were planning to cut us out of the LLC, that you told her after Sunday dinner last week, in the car on the way home. You said you were tired of carrying everything, wanted full control, even talked to lawyers about removing us from retirement accounts. She said you were overloaded, and if we didn't act first, you would." I felt heat rise to my face, but my voice stayed cold. "I never said those words. I never had a private car conversation with Sophie last week or any recent week." Long silence on the line. Mom whispered, "But Sophie said—" "Sophie lied," I cut in. "Last week, dinner at the Thai place in Bellevue, right? I drove separately. I left alone at 9:45 to avoid I-90 traffic. Sophie Ubered with friends. I have receipts if needed. No car conversation." Dad muttered a soft curse. "Damn it." Mom whispered something to Dad, voice trembling. "Then why would she—" "Because Sophie wants my position," I said clearly. "She just lost her job, has credit card debt, and sees the LLC as an easy way out. Convincing you I'm the bad guy, that I'm planning to cut everyone off, makes pushing me out look like protecting the family. Then Sophie slides into managing member, like the draft documents Uncle Alan Whitaker saw." Silence again. Dad sighed heavily. "Jason Liu called me yesterday too. He said no signature from you. Everything paused. He sounded confused." "That's right," I said, "because there's no signature, and there won't be unless I choose to sign." Mom started crying softly. "I didn't know. I just thought you were angry because we always asked you to do so much. Sophie said if we didn't act, you'd take everything." I closed my eyes a second. "Did you hear those exact words from me directly?" "No," Mom admitted, voice small. "Only Sophie told us. And you chose to believe Sophie instead of asking me." Dad sighed. "I was wrong, Em. I took the easy path." I let silence stretch a few seconds, then said, "I don't want to keep doing this over phone. No more texts or indirect stories. We meet in person, all four of us, at the Issaquah house, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll bring every piece of evidence. Emails, receipts, advisor notes, event timeline. You bring everything Sophie told you. We put it all on a table and see what holds up." Mom panicked. "Do we need lawyers?" "Lawyers are already involved," I replied. "The question is whether they see Sophie's version first or the truth first." Dad asked, "Tomorrow, 7, okay?" "Yes, if Sophie doesn't come, that's an answer too." I hung up before they could say more. I sat there, watching the phone screen fade, exactly 10 minutes. I didn't feel relief, didn't feel victory. Just clarity. Time to put everything on the table, under light, and let truth speak for itself. Tuesday night, I drove across the I-90 bridge toward Issaquah in heavy rain. Wipers at full speed,
headlights illuminating long water streaks on the road. I wore a long black coat, hair tied neatly, passenger seat holding my iPad in its leather case, and a thick printed folder, over 100 pages of evidence, chronologically ordered, color dividers, page numbers. I brought no emotion, only truth. My parents' house at the end of a cul-de-sac, quiet suburb with 2-story shingle-roofed homes. Porch light glowed warm yellow, but the atmosphere inside was heavy from the moment I stepped through the door. Smell of chocolate chip cookies wafting. Mom always bakes when stressed. Dad opened the door, hugged me hard. "Thank you for coming," his voice hoarse. Mom stood behind, eyes red, hugged me longer than usual. Sophie sat in the single armchair in the living room corner, Kleenex box ready on the armrest, a few tissues already crumpled like props. She wore an oversized beige sweater, hair loose, no makeup, looking fragile, breakable.
The living room was the same as always. Brown leather sofa, family photos on the wall, gas fireplace crackling softly. But the air was different. No smiles, no jokes. Dad pointed to the main sofa. "Sit, honey." I set the folder and iPad on the oak coffee table, sat straight. "Before we start, I want to be clear. Everything I say tonight is based on evidence. No speculation, no emotion. If anyone lies, I won't keep it in this room." Sophie smirked. "Wow, starting tense already. We're family." "Family can still lie to each other," I replied lightly. "Truth isn't afraid of light." Mom gripped her hands tight. "Sophie, tell your sister what you told us." Sophie sighed, voice trembling. "I just repeated what you said. You were tired of carrying everything. You were thinking about removing Mom and Dad's names from things. You wanted full LLC control so you didn't have to consult them. And it happened in the car after Thai dinner last week. You were stressed, probably don't remember clearly." I opened the folder, pulled out 2 printed receipts. "Dinner at Thai Ginger in Bellevue, right? This is your Uber receipt, Sophie Keller, 9:52 p.m. from the restaurant to Issaquah. This is my phone location from Find My. I left the restaurant at 9:41, stopped for gas in Factoria at 9:58, drove straight to the condo. 2 different routes, 2 different cars. No car conversation." I slid the papers across the table. Mom leaned down to read, eyes widening. Sophie shrugged quickly. "Maybe another week, memory gets mixed up." "Then here's the only other family dinner in the last 3 months." I flipped further. "That night you left early at 8:30 to meet friends in Capitol Hill. Group chat confirms. I stayed to pay and drove home alone. No private ride either." Dad leaned back slowly, face darkening. I continued, opened iPad, airplayed to the TV, my prepared timeline. Next, duplex withdrawal emails sent before Sophie's mental health story spread. Next, notes from Uncle Alan Whitaker on draft adding managing member. Next, recorded call with Jason Liu. Overwhelmed, repeated. Next, screenshots of Sophie's Instagram stories. Toxic person who controls money. Finally, messages from Megan and Tom Reynolds. 1 page at a time, I laid them on the table like cards. Mom finally turned to Sophie, whispering, "You said you saw emails. You said Emily agreed to cut us out." Sophie sat straighter. "Well, now she's printed everything. Of course she'll make me look bad. She's always loved control." Dad stared at Sophie. "Truth doesn't fall apart when placed next to an Uber receipt. Yours did." Mom Laura looked at me, eyes red, then at Sophie. For the first time, I heard Mom's voice firm. "No, not this time." The word no landed in the room like something heavy. Sophie opened her mouth to speak, but Mom raised her hand. "No, Sophie, I've protected you too long. I pushed responsibility onto Emily because I thought you were fragile. Now I see the only person who lied to us is the one we told Emily never to return." Sophie blinked fast, tears spilling, this time seeming real. "So now everyone believes her just because she printed things?" Dad sighed. "Not because of printouts, because truth doesn't contradict itself. Yours does." The silence was heavy. Sophie looked around for allies, found none. Dad rubbed his jaw, the familiar gesture when thinking hard. "So what now?" Sophie snapped. "She's got her whole packet of papers, must be thrilled,
Haven't made Mom cry enough? I ignored the jab. This isn't about crying.
It's about consequences. You told me I was out. I acted accordingly. I stepped back from being the default safety net. But that also means no one quietly uses my name, credit, or work anymore. Starting with Sophie having zero access to anything I built. Mom hesitated. Sophie doesn't have formal access. But she's been in meetings, in duplex group chats, talking to advisors like decisions were already favoring her. That stops today. Dad looked at Sophie. Honey, we need to be clear. No more talking to advisors for us. No more speaking on our behalf. No more hinting Emily is okay with things when she isn't. Sophie blinked hard. So you're cutting me out completely? After everything I've done for the family? I couldn't help it. Everything like what? Instagram stories about growing up in a toxic suburban family or half-baked business plans you wanted me to fund? Mom flinched, but didn't scold this time. Dad said quietly, maybe we need to make it official. No additional beneficiaries, no shared accounts, no empty promises. We've been saying for years we'd help Sophie start something, pay off cards, co-sign loans. It only made her think she's entitled to money that doesn't exist until Emily builds it. Mom turned to me, eyes wet. Rewrite the documents. The LLC, retirement, everything. Based on what you think makes sense, not what we say in a fight. I stared at her. You're asking me to take control again after just telling me to get out? She nodded, tears rolling. I'm asking you to do what you've been doing all along. Only this time we admit you know more than we do. Sophie let out a harsh laugh. Unbelievable. You're handing her everything, punishing me because I told the truth about how she treats us. Dad looked at her steadily. Truth would hold up against a gas receipt. Yours didn't. That's the difference. Sophie looked genuinely shaken for the first time since I arrived. Her eyes flicked to me, searching for the old Emily who might offer a lifeline. I didn't. Dad took a breath. Here's what we're going to do. Emily, you and Harrison and Lou figure out whatever it takes to make the LLC and retirement accounts bulletproof. You and I remain the only managing members. Your mom is beneficiary. Sophie is not in any position of control anywhere. If we help her, it will be from our own pockets, not by opening back doors into what you built. Sophie sat forward. You can't just erase me like that. I'm your daughter, too. Mom winced. We're not erasing you. We're stopping pretending money we don't have will fall from the sky because we put your name on something Emily made. The air was thick enough to cut. Sophie switched tactics fast, anger to tears. Fine, let me prove it. Give me a small role in the LLC. Let me handle Instagram for the rentals or something. Let me show I can contribute instead of just take. I stood, picked up my folder. No. If you want to prove you can build something, you don't do it by wiring yourself into someone else's creation. You do it starting from zero, like I did. Mom looked between us, voice soft. Emily, isn't that a little harsh? I shook my head. Harsh was being told never to return. Harsh was having my mental health used as a prop for online sympathy. This is just boundaries, Mom. There's a difference. Sophie glared at me. You're going to regret this. I slipped my phone into my bag. No. I'm going to protect what I earned and stop you turning my work into your safety net. Whatever happens to you after that isn't on me. Dad walked me to the door. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for the voicemail, for not asking you first, for letting it get this far. I believed what was easiest to hear. I nodded, a complicated mix of relief and sadness washing over me. I know, but believing the easy story doesn't mean the consequences are easy too. I stepped into the rain, folder still dry in my hand. The climax was over, and for the first time, truth stood firm. After the confrontation, the air in the Issaquah living room remained heavy, as if someone had sucked all the oxygen out. Sophie sat frozen in the armchair, Kleenex box now genuinely crumpled, eyes red, but no more tears falling. Mom Laura sat close to Dad Greg on the sofa, hands clasped tight in his, like seeking an anchor. I still sat straight, thick folder on my lap, iPad screen off but ready to reopen any moment. Dad broke the silence first. He cleared his throat, voice low but firm, the tone he used as shift supervisor at Boeing when making hard calls. "Here's what we're going to do," he said, eyes on me. "Emily, you work with Harrison and Lou to revise all document, LLC, retirement accounts, everything. Only you and I remain managing members. Your mom is beneficiary. Sophie will hold no control position anywhere. If we help her, it comes from our own pockets, not by opening back doors into what you built." Sophie shot up from the chair, voice high and trembling with anger. "You're serious? You're erasing me completely just because she brought a stack of papers? I'm your daughter too." Mom Laura winced, but this time didn't defend immediately. She looked at Sophie, voice quiet but certain. "We're not erasing you. We're just stopping pretending money will magically appear because we put your name on something Emily created. If we help you, it will be because you have a real plan and we can actually afford it, not out of guilt." Sophie switched tactics so fast it was almost impressive. Tears welled again, voice shifting from anger to pleading, softer. She turned to me, eyes glistening. "Okay, Emily, let me prove it. Just give me a small role. Manage Instagram for the rental properties or something. I can take nice photos, write captions, boost Airbnb bookings. I'll contribute for real, not just take. I promise." I looked her straight in the eye. A year ago, I might have softened. I'd funded Sophie's graphic design course, paid for her Bali inspiration trip, co-signed credit cards when she just needed a little to get through a rough patch. But now, I only saw the same pattern repeating. "No," I said simply, voice even. "If you want to prove you can build something, you don't do it by wiring yourself into what someone else already built. You do it starting from nothing, like I did." Mom looked at me, voice worried. "Emily, isn't that a bit harsh?" I shook my head slowly. Harsh was being told never to return by voicemail. Harsh was having my mental health used as a prop for online sympathy. This is just boundaries, Mom. There's a big difference. Sophie stood abruptly, voice high again, laced with desperation. "You'll regret this. You think you can cut me off and walk away clean? I'm leaving here forever. You'll never see me again." She waited. Waited for Mom to rush over and hug. Waited for Dad to grab her hand. Waited for me to back down. But no one moved. Mom just bowed her head, hands still clasped in Dad's. Dad looked at Sophie, eyes sad but resolute. I stayed silent, gathering folder and iCat into my bag. Sophie stood there a few seconds, breathing hard, then spun, ran upstairs. Her bedroom door slammed, echoing through the house. No one followed. I stood, put on my coat. Mom hugged me again at the door, this time saying nothing, just holding tight. I felt her tremble slightly. Dad walked me out to the porch. Rain had stopped, only cold dampness and wet earth smell left. Porch light cast long shadows of us two on the stone path. He stopped by my car door, hands in his old jacket pockets. "I'm sorry, Em," he said quietly, voice rough. "Sorry for the voicemail. Sorry for not asking you first. Sorry for letting it go this far. I believed what was easiest to hear." I looked at him. Under the yellow light, I saw deeper wrinkles around his eyes, more silver in his hair. "I know," I replied, "but believing the easy story doesn't mean the consequences are easy too, Dad." He nodded slowly, eyes on the wet ground. "You're right. Your mom and I were wrong thinking the older kid can always handle it. The younger one needs protecting forever. We had it backward." I opened the car door, paused a second. "You can still help Sophie, but not by taking from what I built. Help by teaching her to build her own." He put a hand on my shoulder, squeezed lightly. "I promise." I got in, started the engine. Red taillights glowed in the damp night. As I pulled out of the cul-de-sac, I glanced in the rear view. Dad still standing there under the porch light, his figure shrinking. I didn't cry on the drive home. I just felt something lighter in my chest. Not full forgiveness, but clarity. Boundaries had been set, and for the first time, they were respected. 1 month later, I stood in the garage of the new Capitol Hill duplex, holding the last box of kitchen items. Seattle rain still fell steadily outside the large windows, but this was gentle spring rain, carrying the scent of fresh earth and early cherry blossoms along the street. The pale red brick building looked perfect in the soft light. Lower unit now officially my parents, with clear legal clause. They live there for life, untouchable by anyone. Upper unit mine, bright apartment, big windows overlooking tree-lined street, already listed on Airbnb for short-term rentals at competitive rates. First weekend booking cash flow had hit the account. Keller Family Investments LLC was leaner and cleaner than ever. Only Dad and I as managing members. Mom, sole beneficiary. No side doors, no loopholes for creative interpretations. Harrison and Lou finalized the new documents. Every signature signed in person at the notary office. No more sneaky drafts. When the last ink dried, I felt something settle. Not dramatic revenge, but a solid structure where the person who tried to push me out no longer had any way in. Weekends, I often drive to Issaquah for dinner with my parents. No more tense meals avoiding money topics. We sit around the old oak kitchen table, Mom cooking pot roast with mashed potatoes, my childhood favorite. Dad pours cheap Costco red wine, and we talk openly. I open the laptop, pull up the balance sheet, show them real cash flow from the 4 old houses and duplex projections. Mom no longer pretends not to understand numbers. She asks about yield, repair reserve funds. Dad nods when I explain refinancing a rented property to lower rates. Not perfect. Still awkward silences when Sophie's name comes up. Still guilty glances from Mom when she gets a text from her younger daughter. But now, when Sophie texts asking for credit card help, Mom just shows me the message, sets the phone face down, and says, I can't fix this for her the old way anymore. From what I hear through cousins, Sophie moved into a small studio in Tacoma, cheap area near the freeway, truck noise all night. She does sporadic freelance graphic design, posts Instagram stories about hustle life and starting from scratch. The event planning empire plan she once raved about, renting office space in South Lake Union, high-end wedding events, faded away. No capital, no network, no sponsor. People are starting to notice her stories always need a villain and a spotlight. This time, I'm in neither role. I didn't sue her, didn't try to destroy her online image. I did something quieter, and to me, sharper. Removed the leverage she thought she had. Then let her face a life truly her own, no longer propped up by my work. I'm not angry anymore, just clear. Clear that trust without boundaries is only an invitation for the wrong person to walk in and rearrange everything. Clear that being the strongest in the family doesn't mean letting others weaponize your strength against you. If there's any lesson from all this, it's that you can love your family and still refuse to be their insurance when they gamble with truth. You can forgive without handing back the keys. And if someone ever tells you never return, you're allowed to believe them. Step back and ask the harder question. From this moment on, what do I stop